Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday, the official podcast of Black Fawn Distribution, broadcasting live across the planet and retransmitted on all major streaming platforms. Tonight's program is brought to you in part by Wellington Brewery's Hellas Lager, Deadly Grounds Coffee, Twisted Teas, and of course Canada's #1 genre film company, Black Fawn Distribution. You wanted the best. Well, they didn't make it, so here's what you get.
It's really not that bad.
You are going to hell.
Here's your host, Benner from Black Fawn Distro.
All right, everyone, and welcome back to the program. I'm your host, Benner from Black Fawn Distro, and let's just take this graphic off. There I am. How's everyone doing tonight? Welcome back to another episode. We've got a great program for you tonight. Of course, we are broadcasting live to Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, and of course, retransmitting on all the major streaming platforms, including Apple and Spotify. So please remember to like, follow, share, and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening in on or tuning into. It'd be great, and we'd appreciate the support, of course. It helps us out, but also helps out our guests and the really cool projects that they have coming up that they're working on. So it helps everyone out. So if you feel like going the extra mile, please feel free to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. That helps us gets the show out to a whole bunch of other people, and hopefully can reach a lot more film fans and horror fans across the planet. That actually does help. So like I said, if you got some extra time in your hands and you want to leave a review on Apple Podcasts for the show, Black Fawn Distro, Takeover Tuesday, we'd really appreciate it. Quick shout out to our sponsors, of course, Wellington Brewery's Hellas Lager, Deadly Grounds Coffee, and Twisted Teas. Of course, I'm wearing a Twisted Tea right now, Return of the Living Dead Part 2, one of my all-time favorite artworks, and really, really awesome company. And we couldn't thank all of our sponsors more for their support, of course, through these challenging couple of years, now rolling up on 2 years, but they have kept us going, and we definitely do appreciate everything that they've done for us. Now, we've got a really great program for you tonight. We've got, if you didn't follow us on Instagram today, we've got the awesome Derek Prince-Cox. He is the host of the Wok Show, and he's in the studio tonight. He's currently in the green room giving me the thumbs up. And we're going to talk about his awesome podcast and his interview series he's been working on for quite some time, as well as some of his favorite horror flicks and some of his new projects that he has coming up. Of course, as you can see on the ticker below, he's got a new project called Reciprolog, and he's got a brand new single called The Violence Exposed, which we'll get to in a second, and I can tell you a little bit more about. Listen, of course, there's some rock and roll going to happen this episode, and we couldn't be happier to have Derek here in the studio. But before we get there, you guys know the drill. We got to hit the news.
Top story. Top story. We'll give you the world. We'll give you the world. This may be the most important decision of your life. Can't stand the heat. Get out of the kitchen. Any special message for all the kids watching at home? You can't stand the heat. Get out of the kitchen.
Top story.
And remember, we care. We care. There are certain inherent risks that come with the territory. Top story. Top story. We'll give you the word.
Top story.
Okay, and we're back with another edition of the news. I've got my shirt and tie on. I've got my blazer on. And listen, let's jump into our top story right now. We have a really cool announcement to make, and that is the fact that we are actually going to expand Takeover Tuesday a little bit. And we're actually going to do sort of like I don't know if you'd call it like a hot panel, hot stove type of talk series about some of our favorite horror franchises and some other stuff that we have coming up. So like I mentioned last episode, we were talking about the Scream reboot. We were talking about the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that's coming out on Netflix. And we couldn't be happier to have a long line of guests that I've reached out to, some people that have been past guests on the show. They're actually going to rejoin us and talk to us about some of their favorite horror movies and some other stuff as well. I don't want to give too much away, but thanks everyone for, of course, making the show the success that it is. And we do really appreciate your support. And this is going to be just another thing that we're going to kind of get out there so people can check it out and get our sort of my take on a few of my favorite horror movies as well. Quick mention about a physical media. We're not going to take too much time on this, but I just wanted to point it out. Physical media review this week is the new album by Korn, legendary nu metal band. I got Wok giving me the thumbs up. This is obviously part of our teenage years, but what I wanted to point out was the fact that this CD, whatever, $15, actually came with a really cool patch inside. So you got this patch. It's pretty big. That can go on a jean jacket, which is where mine's going to go. But really cool. Thinking outside the box, people. CD companies, movie companies, please continue to do that because it keeps physical media alive and gives you a little bit of a bonus as well for people that have supported your product over the years. We love patches as well here at Black Fawn Distro. You can get your own Black Fawn Distro patch at our online store at blackfawndistribution.com. And there might be some more interesting patches coming out. I don't know. I don't want to give too much away, but stay tuned. Check out our website. Check out our Instagram. We might have some patch news coming out very, very soon. Now, moving on, of course, it wouldn't be a news report if we didn't do a bi-weekly installment of the fried chicken sandwich report. That's where I go out and try a fried chicken sandwich and tell you how good it is. And of course, this week, we tried to find something new, and we found a really, really cool place in Toronto called Cluck Clucks. That's just a fun name to say, Cluck Clucks. So you're welcome. And here's a picture of me. Here I am eating one of their fried chicken sandwiches. Pretty decent. It's got really, really nice sauce, really thick, sweet pickles. I think those are the bread and butter pickles. Perhaps someone can correct me in the comments below, but bread and butter pickles, really nice cuts of chicken. It was a $10 lunch special, so the price was right. Really solid sandwich. It checks a lot of boxes for me, and I couldn't recommend this one enough. I'm giving it a solid 4 out of 5. Of course, we rate everything based on the star movie rating system. Only half stars and full stars for these reviews, so 4 out of 5 for Cluck Clucks in Toronto. And of course, let's go to the standings. We've got our top 10 here. Cluck Clucks coming in at number 3, tied for number 3 and 4 are held 4 to 5 with Cluck Clucks fried chicken sandwich. And of course, the Zinger Chick Zinger Burger. But still holding the top spot is Coco Chicken fried chicken sandwich, chicken joint out of Guelph, Ontario, as well as Tall Tree Chicken Sandwich Co. out of Hamilton. Those two are tied 4.5 out of 5 each. They are both amazing chicken sandwiches. And if you get a chance, please go and support any of these on our top 10. I can't remember which one fell off, but Wendy's classic chicken sandwich, 3 out of 5, as well as the A&W chicken buddy burger. And the Zares crispy chicken sandwich looking dangerously close to the bottom of the list. So if you've got a suggestion for a fried chicken joint that we should try out, please email us at takeover@blackfawndistribution.com, and we'll try our best. As long as it's not 1,000 miles away, we'll try our best to get over there and have ourselves a fried chicken sandwich. Now, moving on, our guest tonight is Derek Prince-Cox of The Wok Show. He's the host of the successful podcast, of course, called The Wok Show, and he's an extremely accomplished musician as well. He's played in such metal bands as Arise and Ruin, Wakeless, in 5 years, and Thunderbags, just to name a few. And having honed his craft while touring most of North America, Derek now divides his time between his successful interview series on The Wok Show, while also creating some original content for others. With The Wok Show recently celebrating its 100th episode, this guy really is the epitome of consistency. Now, his new project is called Reciprologue. They've recently released a brand new single called The Violence Exposed, which we're going to play for you in just a second. And all the proceeds from the sale of this track are going to be donated to the Guelph Black Heritage Society. So we're going to put up the link as well. You can go to their Bandcamp, buy the track for whatever you want. It's a 5-minute rockin' tune. It's got a great hook in it. And you know what? You're supporting a really, really great cause. So like I said, all the proceeds from the sale of this track through Bandcamp are going to be donated to the Guelph Black Heritage Society. And we'll be discussing why Derek chose this particular cause coming up. But first, let's take a listen to this rockin' new tune so you get a full understanding of how awesome this guy really is. I'm going to pump his tires because he's a good friend of mine, a good friend of the show. He's helped us out in the past. And of course, it'd be really, really cool to make him feel a little bit uncomfortable on the show. That's part of my job. But of course, this is The Violence Exposed from Reciprologue, featuring Ryan Drury as on a guest vocal spot as well. We've got Derek, aka The Wok, live on the other side, and we'll get to chatting with him right after this. All right. And that was The Violence Exposed by Reciprolog. And what an amazing track. And I've got live in the studio, virtually live in the studio at least, Derek Prince-Cox, who is the creator of this really, really cool project, host of the Wok Show, amongst other things. My good friend, I feel like this has been forever to try and set up, but thanks so much for taking the time and joining the program. How are you?
I am great, and thank you so much for having me. I have my Cavan coffee, and I know
Awesome.
you are repping Deadly Grounds coffee, so it'll be a bit of a battle of the coffees tonight. May the best coffee win. It's kind of like the Super Bowl of podcasting, if you think about it.
Oh man! Well, if it's anything like the Super Bowl that we just saw on Sunday between the Bengals and the Rams, I guess we're gonna get into some controversy, right? No, just kidding. Missed calls. I'm just kidding.
Oof, yeah. Oof. How much time you got, buddy?
How much money did everyone lose, right? So, listen, I just wanted to throw this out there to anyone who's listening. We do appreciate everyone tuning in. If you've got a question for myself, for the show, or for Derek, feel free to leave it in the comments section below on whatever platform you're listening in on, and we will try and get to them in real time and throw them up on the screen and get some answers for you as the show goes on. I wanted to jump in on this because this is such a great track. I know you kind of showed it to me a while ago when you were writing it. For the most part, of course, Ryan Drury does a guest vocal spot on this, but you recorded this whole project by yourself, right? The drums, guitars, everything. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I played everything on it, other than the vocals and the bridge, which was Drury kicking my ass all over the studio. But Alex Snape handled all the recording duties and mixing and mastering. So I definitely got to shout him out in Nomadic Arts.
Awesome. And of course, I mean, you're, like I mentioned on the top of the program, you're donating all the proceeds from the sale of the track to the Guelph Black Heritage Society. Of course, it's Black History Month this month, of course, in February. But for those of you, people who can't see us, it's a couple of slightly overweight white dudes. What can you tell us on this podcast, at least? What can you tell us about the project? Like, how did it come to be, and why was it important for you to kind of make this cause something worth supporting?
Well, I always wanted to do a solo project ever since I was in high school. But this song, for whatever reason, it took me this long to get off the ground. This song, it was basically, I wrote it after I went to the Black Lives Matter demonstration in Guelph back in 2020. And it was just really powerful. It was a very powerful day. And I kind of went home and I had a few beverages and I kind of thought about things. And, once I was able to sort of process everything, once it was more than just like a holy shit moment, I started kind of writing some ideas down, and it kind of came from there, man.
Nice. And I mean, this isn't the first time you've supported like a cause with music. Obviously, for those of you out there who don't know Derek's history, I mean, you've been around a while, played in a whole ton of bands, a whole ton of musical projects, and I mean that in the nicest possible. You're as old as dirt, man. No,
it's a nice way of putting it, dude.
No, but you've always been involved in some type of musical project, usually multiple ones at the same time. But this isn't your first time supporting a cause, especially in the Tri-City area and specifically in the Guelph area. Why is that important to you to support things around there? And what can you tell us about what you supported in the past as well?
Well, dude, who got me into raising money when I can is this guy named Benner, actually, a million years ago. You and I both are that kind of person. And I did pick that up from you, man. So it started with Movember, and then remember the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge?
Yeah.
I did a couple of years of books for kids through the Guelph Mercury. And then there was Walk Stock in 2019, where we raised some money for Hospice Wellington. And I wasn't really able to do anything throughout the pandemic. Now, truthfully, I probably was able to do, something, but I just, it took me a while to kind of find my footing, man. So this was an opportunity to keep on going. And I know you are very like-minded when it comes to being charitable.
Well, I actually didn't know you were going to say that, so thanks for putting me on the spot. But I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I mean, I think I just sort of I always approached it like, if you can do a little good, great. And sometimes that's all it takes. I know I was down at the Black Lives Matter, at the march that they had in Guelph. So I didn't see you down there because there was literally I think there was over 8,000 people. I think there might have even been more, but there was thousands of people. I don't think I've ever been a part of something like that either. And of course, we went down to, support obviously what had happened and friends of ours. I think that's kind of, for me at least, and I don't know I'm sure you feel the same way, but we have a lot of mutual friends and we have friends that we know, and that it was just a way to support them, to go down and say, it's important. I mean, something, and I know I always say that kind of Close Encounters reference is sometimes kind of like a joke sometimes, but I think in this case, it really does drive the point home. It was a pretty powerful afternoon, and it's something that I know will stick with me. And I thought about this while I listened to that song too.
Hey, well, I'm glad that it could put you into that headspace, man. And it's one of those things where, when I went down there, I went down there to say jack shit, you know what I mean? And just absorb and just listen. And so, writing a song about it, I don't know, I hope I'm not stepping on toes by doing that. I mean, certainly nobody needs to hear from me about this topic. There are much better people to kind of, to move that ball forward. But I don't know. I felt so moved by the experience that I just felt compelled to write something about it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, like I mentioned, it's a great track. And for anyone listening to as well, what we're going to do is Black Fawn Distro is actually going to support this cause as well, which means that anyone listening live tonight, if you have an email of a friend that you'd like to send the song to, please drop it in the comments or email us at takeover@blackfawndistribution.com. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to gift a song. We're going to pay for the song to be delivered to whomever you'd like it delivered to. We think it's a great cause. It's a great track and it's a banging tune. So all those things together, it's worthwhile. All you have to do is just email us at takeover@blackfawndistribution.com. Give us the email of who you'd like to send this track to, and Black Fawn Distro will be paying for it. And again, of course, all the proceeds are going to support Guelph Black Heritage Society here in Guelph, Ontario. So there you have it. Of course, if you don't want to do that, just want to buy the track and contribute, of course, you can. I just sent out the link, but we'll throw that up on the bottom of the screen as well. Just now, just see if we can do this. There we go. So we'll leave that up for the majority of the program, at least. So check it out. Bandcamp, Reciprolog. It's the new project from Derek Prince-Cox. But Derek is, AKA the Wok. We're going to get into that right now as well. But you're like I said at the top of the hour, you're an accomplished musician. You've worked on multiple projects, but one of your most successful projects has been your podcast, The Wok Show. You just celebrated your 100th episode, which is no small feat. Tell us a little bit about how you got into what drew you into podcasting originally, and how have you kept it going through all these years?
Well, I was afraid you were going to ask me, tell us about what happened at that 100th episode. I don't think either one of us remember. But yeah, man, I mean, I started it December of 2017, and for a bunch of different reasons. But I mean, I definitely had a lot of help from Steve Vargas, who was doing the Taker Wide podcast at that time. Right. And yeah, he was super supportive in terms of helping me with the technical things. Cause as well as anybody, there's a million things on the back end of a podcast. And it was just sort of a way, and this might sound cheesy, and in fact, I know it's going to, but here it is, man. It just really felt like a way to contribute, how can I serve my community being like an older dude? My touring days are long behind me. I can still put out music, but what else can I do to sort of be of service to the community? And podcasting seemed to be the right fit for me.
Well, I've been lucky enough to be on the program 3 times, and I was a guest on the 100th episode.
Yeah,
which is
you
a
were.
great, which is a great episode. If you want to check out another podcast, make sure you go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your favorite podcasts and download the Wok Show. New episodes bi-weekly. You're doing it twice a month, basically 24 or 25 times a year, which is pretty incredible. I'm trying to keep pace, but it's tough. And also if you're looking for a laugh, check out the 100th episode, which I'm on, which makes it better than the rest. No,
Better than all the other ones.
no, but it's got tons of great interviews with local talent, musicians, other people doing other cool stuff. And I can't thank you enough for being for letting me come on at least and just talk my bullshit for a couple hours each time. It's a fun show for sure.
Well, people like you, dude. I mean, lots of people listen to those episodes, so.
Which is why I had to return the favor, right? I had to get you on here, and we got to talk some horror, of course, because hey, we're Black Fawn Distro, we're a horror distribution company out of Canada, and it wouldn't be a horror show if we didn't talk about some horror stuff. So, yeah, and again, like look at these lids, eh? That's how you do it, kids. You support each other, and that gets the job done sometimes. So, for those of you listening and can't see that, I'm wearing a Wok Show toque, and my good friend Derek is wearing a Black Fawn Distro trucker hat. So, which you can both buy.
I'm not part of the convoy, though, just so you know.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry. A Black Fawn Distro.
Just call it a mesh back
sporting hat. Take that as you will.
Yeah.
Gonna get controversial. We got a coffee war going on. We got a hat war going on. But let's just talk about horror flicks, because me and you have been horror fans for a long time. Just in general, like what drew you to horror films when you were like, when did you get into them? And like, tell us some of your favorites, like walk us down that road. No pun intended.
I see what you did there. I mean, dude, I am a product of the 80s. So I mean, you were there. Like horror was like Freddy Krueger was like Robert Plant. You know what I mean? Like it really was like rock stardom, with a lot of horror franchises. And I mean, it didn't have to be a franchise to be awesome, but I think that had a lot to do with elevating horror as a genre to the masses. And when you're a kid in the 80s, what do you want to do? You want to watch the movies your parents won't let you watch. So that's how I got into horror. And I've been a huge fan ever since.
Awesome. And would you say Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street's probably your favorite franchise?
Definitely my favorite franchise. My favorite horror movie right now, and I feel like it doesn't get nearly enough love, is Society, man, from '89.
Oh yeah. Our friends, we got some friends at Witch Finger podcast, and they love that movie. Like they think it's the greatest movie ever made, and it's like it's phenomenal. Like the amount of practical effects, and I feel like that always gets brought up. Like I feel like practical effects. I know me and you are big fans of The Thing as well. I mean, who isn't? But I feel like that's the thing that's missing in horror films today is that the practical effects sell it. And it can just be a practical effect of like maybe someone even coming out of a doorway or a room or something that's physical there that's not CGI. I feel that is all the more creepier than if it's not, right?
A practical effect, literal butt head.
Yeah, literal butt. I mean, I wish I had.
How can you beat that?
I wish I had that clip. I know, like, a lot of the time for horror flicks, like I remember a long time ago, me and you watched Insidious together.
Yeah, buddy.
And we were like, hey, should we watch? Hey, we were like, Insidious is on. I think this is when like me and you lived together for a little while, and we had the movie network, and we were like, should we watch this Insidious movie? Like we never heard anything about it. Like we just heard that it was a creepy movie. It was made for low budget, and it was James Wan, right? So, and I remember like turning off all the lights. We decided we're going to turn off all the lights and crank it super loud, and then like freaked out a little bit just by watching that. It makes you feel like a little kid again.
Yes, that scene, like, and the scene I'm talking about, like with the Darth Maul dude, like right behind him, in the kitchen, like that whole scene. I feel like it's like like 7 minutes of solid like dread, and it doesn't let up.
Yeah, and the little boy the little boy in the like I always feel like James Wan when he does horror flicks, like I always feel like that's kind of his key now, where it's like the camera pans over something and you're like, oh, like there's something over there in that corner, but you never really see it. And then it's again, like you said, that dread, the sense of dread is kind of created over like however many minutes, and then that thing usually shows up again, right? So
have you watched the new James Wan produced the TV show Archive 81, I think it's called?
No, but I've heard it's amazing.
Yeah, you would dig it, man.
Yeah, a friend of mine told me that was like a must watch. Actually, one of our directors told me that like that's a show you need to get into. It's really creepy, super well done. So yeah, I mean, it's on my list, man. I mean, it's funny. It's like I always try and get into shows. I'm pretty successful at it. I know you are too. I mean, obviously, we've both been riding a pandemic for 2 years, so you know, what else are you going to do other than watch movies and music, and work, of course. But are you watching anything like recently, like show wise that you think is worth checking out?
Well, I mean, the wife and I did just finish Archive 81. We loved it. What else? God, I was watching, oh man, show on, it's on Netflix, but it's a Channel 4, like, British show, Dead Set, I think it's called, where it's like the reality show zombie apocalypse.
Okay.
It's
I haven't heard of that.
Okay, yeah, like it's pretty interesting. And I'm not much of I'm really picky with my zombie stuff. Like I'm a hardcore Romero guy. Like zombies don't run, in my view.
Oh, you're one of those guys.
Definitely one of those guys, man. I mean, there are rules, there are rules,
Yeah.
but they're definitely running in this show, and I don't know. It's such a fresh take on the zombie apocalypse thing that I'll let it slide.
Do you think like so no fast zombies ever? Like, I mean, it's always,
you're not gonna dig yourself out of the grave and like all of a sudden you're Donovan Bailey. You know what I mean? Yeah.
For anyone listening out there, if you got comments on that, fast zombies or slow zombies, let us know in the comment section below, and we'll try and get to you throughout the broadcast. But yeah, I'm interested to hear that. I thought I like the fast zombies in like I just like the concept of 28 Days Later when that movie came out, where
I do too, but those aren't really zombies though, are they?
it's like a virus, right? So it's
right.
It's not like, yeah, people get eaten, but you don't, like, you can get infected from something other than a bite, I guess, which I thought was kind of a cool take. And then the Dawn of the Dead remake by Zack Snyder, which I still think is like one of his best flicks. I just thought that was a fun movie to go and see. But I get, like, you run out of ideas, right? Like when and especially when zombies can sometimes run faster than the humans, like
yeah,
like you don't really stand a chance, right? I mean, I would take, if there was a zombie apocalypse, I would take slow zombies 100%. Like I would not want fast zombies in real life.
No.
But
there just has to be some rules. Like there has to be, I don't know, like if they're faster dead than alive, like, should all the triathletes just like kill themselves and, come back from the dead? Like, what are we talking about here?
But they went, yeah. Is that an Olympics plug right there? Just get infected, man. Come back, win a gold medal. Just want to throw this up. We got a couple comments here from the OHFP friends, longtime listeners of the show. Just the devil horns. I'm assuming that's from the track that we played. And of course, just a quick follow up from what we were just talking about from Daryl Ailes. 100% too much green screen and horror ruins all the tension. It ruins a lot of tension in any film. I feel like green screen, I get like they're, they got to do certain things. You can't build everything, but I don't know. I just kind of feel like when you can tell it's not real, like it kind of pulls you out of everything. And I feel like that's a problem with a lot of movies nowadays, especially big budget stuff. Like, but I don't know. What do I know? I'm just some guy, right? So, just got a quick comment to you as well from John, a longtime listener of the show, of course, as well. He said, I feel if the world was overrun by zombies, they would have to be fast, or they would just get picked off by all the hicks and military. Well, yeah, I mean,
yeah, that's true.
It just depends. It depends what the ratios are, right, John? Like, I mean, if there was 1,000 zombies, like, sure. But like, if there was like 1 million, I don't know. I guess you
like
could just,
I understand, like adapt or die. I get it, but they do that throughout the Romero series. I mean, they're not running like marathons, but I mean, they learn to communicate. They learn to kind of go through water. You know, like I still feel like they are learning to adapt. It's just at a more realistic pace. I don't know. Like now we're talking about the reality of zombie flicks, but my suspension of disbelief. I think that's what the cool kids call it. It's just I don't know. It's got to be Romero rules for me.
Like there was a time where I think it was in Land of the Dead that like one of the zombies remembers sort of what he did in the past. So I can't remember exactly. So maybe someone can remind me, but like, but essentially like he remembered his old job because it was essentially like brain trauma, and that's kind of how he treated it. That's a really cool idea. But then every movie had that in it. Like every movie was like, you know, there's garbage men zombies and teacher zombies and like, so I don't know, man. Okay. So, I mean, let's, as far as like other horror films go, do you have a favorite genre? Do you think that, you would gravitate more towards? Is it more like supernatural, or do you like, or is zombies your thing, or?
Definitely supernatural. Zombies typically are not my thing, other than, you know, Romero, which I think I've probably made that too clear. But I think paranormal stuff for me, like that's what does it. Slashers, not so much, although I have a great deal of respect for the classic thrashers, right? Like how could you not? But I'm just the kind of person where like if somebody comes like stalking my house, like I'm just gonna grab the bat and either I'm going down or you are. You know what I mean? Like, so it has to be something supernatural that really gives me the willies.
Right. So you can't fight it. It's the unknown.
Yes.
From the place beyond. Yeah.
Like I thought Hereditary was fucking incredible.
Yeah. I mean, that's a movie that keeps coming up. I know it's sort of getting, it's funny because like in horror circles and horror communities, that's the movie that's starting to kind of become a bit like The Shining, where like too many people like it. And it's so funny because it's like, me and you have talked about this a long time about bands. It's totally the same thing. Like something's gotten too popular and everyone's just like either, well, it's not that great. You know what I mean? But it's like, but if I was to show a movie to someone being like, here's a scary movie, you want to watch a scary movie? Here's a couple I can recommend out of the gate. Like Hereditary would be up there. Terrifying, great ending too. And as well as The Shining. And those are kind of, like, I mean, I feel like Hereditary is kind of creeping up on that too, where people are like, yeah, it's not that great because everyone likes it. But I don't know. I think it's one of the most effective horror movies released in the last probably at least 10 years.
I mean, everyone likes it for a reason, you know, like I'm on a couple of Facebook groups around horror movies. And yeah, I see all the Hereditary hate, and people will say stuff like, oh God, I just watched that new one from the Strangers guy, The Dark and the Wicked.
Okay.
And it kind of uses some of those, like those tricks in Hereditary. I think I'm not giving anything away by saying that. But you get people, you know, in these Facebook groups going like, oh yeah, they're just using that like art house, like tactic, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, are you calling it an art house tactic because it's just not the same rehashed bullshit like that's been used for decades? Is that what you mean by art house, tactics?
I thought
just seems so stupid to me.
I thought so. So Ari Aster, the director of that movie, like he's got it's something about like old people in movies. If they're always seem like super creepy if they're presented in a particular way. And Ari Aster's just being like, well, I'm just going to have like old naked people like that are going to be super creepy, which is super creepy. And I don't care what anyone says.
It is super creepy.
If a naked old person was in your basement and like you went down to do the laundry, guess what? You're not walking by them. You're running out of your house. So I don't know. I feel like, especially for that, it's like, it's funny. I was just talking about this too. I watched It Follows recently, which is another movie. I think is brilliant. And I still cannot figure out how that movie hasn't had multiple sequels. Like I can't figure out why that didn't become a franchise like Saw or like Insidious or anything like that. And I don't know if you've seen that movie or
yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah. It's like just a weird, creepy movie.
Here's a question about It Follows. Like, do you think So when you see a movie like that you enjoyed, like we both enjoyed it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you kind of want to protect the name and you don't want them to do sequels, or do you want to see sequels? Like, what's your thought on a movie like that?
I mean, it depends. Like, it depends on I guess it depends on how strong the concept is and where you can take it. Like, I really liked Insidious 2. And I actually haven't seen the rest of the Insidious movies. It's like on my to-do list, right? But I always thought the second one was really good. I thought Conjuring 1 and 2 were really good. Conjuring 3, maybe not so much, but I don't know. I just feel like if the concept's there and you can run with it. But I do feel like the easier the concept, the easier it is to make a sequel that resonates. Just because it's just straightforward. And I think, like we were talking earlier about the 80s movies, like they were just churning those out. Like the Friday the 13th movies, they were just firing them out like once a year. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what they did with Saw too. Right. I mean, Saw was like, there's no real character development. It was just like, oh, these Muppets in a room. And like, some of them are going to go through that machine,
Yeah.
But again, it was fun because they were like, look, I remember the tagline for Saw was just like, it's Halloween. That means it's Saw. Like, it was like, well, what are you going to do for Halloween? I guess we'll go see the Saw movie. Right. So I miss that about movie theaters. I think that's fun. So I would welcome that for sure, but it's hard to make a scary movie, nowadays. Like, I know, a lot of the conversations that I've had with people are just like because cell phones, right? You can look anything up. You can order anything you want online. Like, is it, and you have to take that device away from people to make things truly scary. Like, you have to isolate people. And that's what Ali Chappell, my last guest on the show, that's what she was saying too, was like, you got to isolate people to make that fear come through. Right. And it's funny because I feel like you lose your phone now. You're like, oh my God, where's my phone? Like, what do I do? So like, I can't imagine like people, especially the generation that's younger than us. Sorry for anybody out there listening to this. Don't take offense to this, but like if that generation lost their phones and they were like out in the wilderness and a bunch of like, murdering psychopath hillbillies were chasing them, like, I don't know if they're living, right? But I don't know what they do.
You guys need to write that movie, man.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, a young kid loses their phone and then they're freaking out and they run into the wilderness, like off the grid, and they meet up with a bunch of like people our age that like are running away from their last hydro bill. And like they have to band together.
Like, I feel like you could lure like if, let's say some teenager was in the wilderness, like you could lure them into like a cabin just by promising them like sweet Wi-Fi, right? Like, oh, my phone doesn't work. It's like, just come in here, man. I got some sick Wi-Fi in here, man. Like, like
Wi-Fi and pumpkin spice lattes. Come on in.
Yeah, the internet's in the basement, man. Just jack your phone in. It's cool. And then all of a sudden, guess what? You're dead. So I feel like that should be written into a movie. I think that's a good way to get somebody somewhere where you want them, right? But yeah, I don't know, man. I like sequels. It's like, it's just, you want to, like, sequels are tough. Like, I remember someone told me this long time ago, that said, even if you had told me that the Matrix sequels were going to be kind of shitty, and I had the option to say make them or not make them, like, I would still say make them because I'd still want to see them.
Okay.
Right. Which is, I don't know, kind of like, it's maybe hindsight's 2020, but I just feel like if you can add something to the story, it makes it kind of cool. I recently just watched all the Halloween movies. I still have to watch Halloween 3. I haven't got through Halloween 3, but I watched all the original movies, the remakes and reboots. I'm actually going on, a shout out to my friend Rob Bellamy for his podcast as well. But we're doing kind of like a roundtable type thing too, talking about all the Halloween films. And it was kind of cool, like watching them, like every night I'd watch a different one. And you can kind of see sort of what they were trying to do with the sequels a little bit. And then stuff worked and then stuff didn't work. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the tricky thing nowadays is like what sequels are what sequels and what timelines they're in. And like, I mean, they're just doing this, the rebootquel or whatever, right? Which is sort of like you taking legacy characters from the original movie and then putting them into a new film. and whether or not that works and whether or not people want to see it. And I think the recent Halloween remake with Jamie Lee Curtis, like it only takes the first film and ignores everything else, like anything else that came after it. So it's like a direct sequel. So now you can watch the movies in any sequence you want. It's bizarre. I don't know. Do you have a preference for that? Like, do you want a sequel to be a direct sequel to the original stuff, or?
Oh man, I think it really depends on the story. I'm not married to an ideology one way or the other there. But I do kind of want to start a war in your comment section and say I liked Halloween 3 the best out of all the Halloweens.
Which one? Oh, Halloween 3.
Yeah. Bring the ruckus.
I like, it's such a weird thing. I've had this conversation a couple times too about the difference between like nostalgia and fan service, right? And having how close you want your sequel to kind of tie into the original timeline. And of course you mention anything that relates to that, and it's like people say, oh, it's fan service and nostalgia. And like, I feel like those two things are different. But at the same time, like, don't you want your sequel to kind of mesh into kind of the story that came before it? Like, I feel that's important, right?
I mean, yes. And I really think it depends on the story. And I know with Halloween 3, or at least what I've heard, is that John Carpenter was trying to kind of make it like more of an anthology. So like every part would be like sort of a different story around the holiday. Well, not holiday, but around Halloween.
Yeah. That was.
Is that right, or am I pulling that out of my what?
No, that's that's how I understand it too. So the idea was like every Halloween there'd be a new movie that came out. It'd just be a Halloween movie to go and see. And every movie would be different, but because the first one was so successful, they just made a direct sequel with Michael Myers for Halloween 2. And then they tried to do that for Halloween 3, but it bombed. So they scrapped that idea and just went back to like Michael Myers. Right. So, but I don't know. I mean, I just saw Scream 5, pretty cool. I love that series too. But I don't know. It's funny because the Scream movies are hilarious to watch because they're so tapped into kind of what's happening when they were made. And Scream 4 Scream 4 is kind of about reboots because at the time they were rebooting like Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, and like Michael Bay, executive producing them and all this stuff. And so that's what that movie is about, but it feels like it was made like 2 years ago and it was made like 2011. So it stands up really, really well. But I'm not sure. I don't know. It's a mixed bag. I mean, I like sequels, but there've been some really horrible fucking sequels made.
Yeah, dude.
So I don't know. Okay. Let's just jump in here. So, okay. Just going back to, all right, let's go back take a step back to our zombie conversation here. John was saying, here we go. Sorry, wrong comment here. But yeah, John saying Dawn of the Dead remake is one of the best intros to a zombie movie. I would agree. I love that intro when I think it's Sarah Polley. She wakes up and there's like zombies everywhere, and she walks out to her like suburban neighborhood and like the whole thing's on fire.
I gotta be honest, I'm gonna piss people off again, I'm sure here, and I've never seen it. Because the original is such a masterpiece to me that I just never wanted to see it,
Yeah, I always felt like it should have been called, like, I don't know. I always feel it should have been called something else. But Zack Snyder went on and made another Dead movie called Army of the Dead, which I don't know if you've seen it, but we could talk for a whole other podcast on the pros and cons of that flick. So, anyway, I love Zack Snyder. Shout out to Zack Snyder. But yeah, Army of the Dead, I wasn't the most biggest fan of. So, and sorry, John follow up to just said, I liked Halloween 3, but what bothers me is that they called it Halloween 3. Should have been called something else. How
I hear you.
A 20-year-old chick falls in love with a 50-year-old. LOL. Yeah. Yeah. John, that was a time in time and space called the 1980s.
Yeah. Yep.
The 80s. It was funny. Like I was just watching, speaking of the 80s, I was just watching, Cobra Kai, and slight spoilers, but how they bring in what's the guy's name, that Silver. who is the old good karate guy, and he's in Karate Kid 3, right? His performance in that movie is just like maniacal. It's just Crazy Train, right? And in the show, they just simply explain it away, saying it was the 1980s and I was doing a lot of cocaine. Which is great. As you did. Like, how do you explain this over the top performance? And they're like, well, we made the movie in 1988 or 89, so we'll just say it's cocaine. So, which is, I think, how you can explain like half of the 1980s, to be honest, if not more. But they were just doing stuff there that they were just making movies, especially horror flicks. They were just kind of churning them out, but also like first time directors, first time actors, kind of just doing what they wanted to do and having the ability to do that. Like, I don't know. It was kind of like a great time. And I think we grew up in the best time for that to happen.
Yeah. Like it's good that a lot of that shit got called out. It was definitely necessary. But there was also a lot of great movies back then. I mean, I don't know how you square that circle, but I guess that's how I try to in my mind. I don't know. Like I was watching Creepshow 2 not that long ago. And the raft, super rapey part in the raft.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, holy fuck, like what's going on? And I've seen it, 100 times, but I don't know. I guess this time I was just like, whoa, like this is not cool.
I think it's how things have aged. Right. And it's funny because I mentioned this before too. It's like, so stuff that was made in the 1970s, right, is 50 years old now. Like it's creeping up to 50 years old. So stuff like Clockwork Orange, I think Deliverance, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like these films are kind of like, and so the 80s was only like, 35, 40 years ago. So we're kind of creeping up into that time. If you went back and did the same thing, like if you took a movie that was made in like, let's say 1975, I mean, 50 years prior to that was 1925, which is insane to think about. Right. And I just feel like society in general, I don't mean that sounds like such a shitty, pompous thing to say, but just society in general. Okay. Go with me here, is that I don't feel like a lot of things have really changed in the last 20 years. Like it doesn't, like 2022 doesn't feel terribly different than 2002 if you compared it to like 2002 in like 1982. Like, and something about the 80s where they were just like, let's give all these young directors coming up shots and see what comes out the other end. And I mean, there was films obviously like Spielberg, but there was like Back to the Future and Gremlins. Like I remember watching Gremlins recently, and and my girlfriend had never seen it, and we watched it, and like halfway through, she was like, "How did this movie get made?" And I go, "I don't know." Like, because it's such a bizarre film. It's like it's a Christmas movie, but not really, and it's like it's gory, but it's not restricted. It's this weird kind of like odd movie that floats around, right? So I don't know. Anyway, but listen,
and marketed to kids. If I can jump in, just like that shit was totally marketed to kids. So like there were like RoboCop action figures for like one of the goriest non-horror movies I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, and
sorry, I just felt like I needed to interject there.
Rainbow cartoon. That was another. It's like,
yeah,
Rambo, like the killing machine from Vietnam. It's like, you know what we can do, Jim? I don't know. What's that, Bob? I think we can make a cartoon out of this and we can sell like action figures.
Yeah. Fucking 80s, dude.
I was trying to figure out.
Unbelievable decade.
Like what would be an equivalent of that today? I guess it would be, I mean, everything's made for PG-13 now, right? But I'm trying to think of like an action movie like a violent action movie, like what would come out that would be like a cartoon. I don't know. Sound off below, people. Anyway, let's just move on a little bit because I don't want to run out of time here, but I feel like we're going to go over the hour for sure. So as you say, stealing one of your lines, going into OT. For those tuning in who don't know, you actually work on other projects for other people, as well as including us. You are actually the person that wrote, recorded, produced, and did the voiceover for our intro track for Black Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday. So the track that you hear every week, that was you from the ground up. Do you want to tell us the story behind that from your side of things? Because I'd be interested to hear it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Benner and I had a lot when he was starting up the show, and like a lot of it was just sort of like picking one because I'd been doing it for some time, just on technical aspects and things like that. And I'm not even quite sure how it came to be where you asked me to do the theme song, but I mean, I jumped at the chance because, I mean, I love the podcast. Love you, buddy. And and it was a great opportunity for me to do something, as an aspiring sound engineer and a lifer musician. It was a great opportunity to do something that would actually be listened to by somebody. So, yeah.
Awesome. Now we announced this a while back, but we had a bit of a small little contest to figure out a name for this track because we just wanted to call it something cooler than just intro track. So we have that today ready to go. And I'm going to see if we'll tell you who gave the name too, but I wonder if you could guess. But we're revealing the new name for Black Fawn Distro for the Black Fawn Distro Takeover Tuesday theme. That's the song that plays at the start of our podcast each and every episode. Of course, written, recorded, and produced by Derek Prince-Cox, my guest tonight from the Wok Show. Let's reveal this name. Do you want to give us a little bit, as a drummer, do you want to give us a little bit of a drum roll?
No, I think we're good. All right,
here we go. And the name is Venom and Denim 666. That's the name of the track. So that's the name of our intro track.
Wow.
That's what it's going to be called. Pretty cool, eh? Let us know what you think about the name below. But for anyone who's curious, it was our good friend of the show, longtime friend, and a friend of yours, Ben Alexis, that came up with that. Of course. So that was his submission.
Righteous.
He was like Venom and Denim, and his quote was like, "I don't know what it means, but I get that tattooed." So I was like, "Yeah,
right on."
So if I count my thumbs, I could do the knuckles, right? Venom and Denim. So
I just got my knuckles done, man. Fuck. Oh well,
dude, you can get rid of that. Get our shit.
Yeah, okay. I'll do my toes.
Okay, so let's now we do have a rapid fire segment of the show. That's where we put you on the spot and ask you 5 hard-hitting journalistic questions and get your take on certain things. I know you kind of knew this was coming, but nonetheless, are you game to do this for the show?
Yeah, let's give her, dude.
Okay, awesome. So this is our rapid fire section. It's brought to you by Wellington Brewery's Hellas Lager. You can obviously take advantage of Wellington's free local delivery in the Guelph area, and also, or you can visit their local brewery in Guelph, of course, as well, or pick up some tins from your local LCBO or wherever you purchase your adult beverages. Wellington Brewery's Hellas Lager, Hellas yeah, or Hells yeah, or whatever, however you want to say it. It's a delightful, easy drinking beer. I've got it on my shelf behind me here, 2 cans. And of course, with the spring and summer coming up, it's a great addition to anyone's fridge. Okay, so let's dive in here. Rapid fire questions. I know you pretty well, so I tried to tailor this to get some kind of cool answers. But let's go. You ready?
Let's do it.
Hopping in. Okay, rapid fire. Question number 1. Yes or no? Are you a fan of the Q-tip scene from Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare?
Yes.
Okay.
Like, I would elaborate on that like 100,000,000%.
Sure. Elaborate away.
Yeah, it's one of the best kills in the franchise.
Okay. Right on. Rapid fire question number 2. You got to pick one. What's your favorite Nightmare on Elm Street film from the franchise?
Oh man. Like right now it's 4, but it would probably have to be 3 if I was picking forever.
Okay. Distinguishing factors, but like, what do you like about each one?
I just feel like 4 was, well, it was very similar to 3. It was just a little smoother, directed by Rennie Harlan of Die Hard 2. Yeah, it was just a little smoother. And like the Roach Motel death was like one of the coolest things ever put onto film. But yeah, I guess I would have to say, like, going forward forever, it's probably got to be Dream Warriors.
Okay. Also, sick tune from
oh yeah. Yeah. Sorry, that's not for, I feel like my answers aren't very rapid. I apologize.
No, that's all right. It's kind of like name only,
Okay.
Okay. So rapid fire question number 3, help us out. You're starting a band and you can pick a drummer to work the kit. Who are you picking?
Probably Marco Miniman, who has been on a Nick Johnston album, by the way. Fantastic guitar player from Guelph. If you haven't heard, check him out.
Okay. Rapid fire question number 4. Tell us more. Some people around the Tri-City area have affectionately referred to you as the Dave Grohl of Guelph. Can you elaborate as to where that story came from?
Well, I mean, I think the first person that called me that might have been you. And
I don't, it wasn't me. I picked up on it, but I never
really.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I mean, like, I'm honored, obviously. Who wouldn't be? But that I don't think that's the case.
Other people around the area would differ, but I think that's just a testament of how many people you've worked with and how much stuff that you do for the music community in the Guelph area. So yeah, you're a humble man. I know that. But I feel like you should wear that badge of distinction, or at least people shouldn't be afraid to tell you that, because I think it's probably pretty true. So, but anyway, like I said, enough of the pumping of the tires. Rapid fire question number 5. Who do you want? You've conducted over 100 interviews on the Wok Show, your podcast, of course. Who is a guest that you haven't had on your program yet and that you'd love to interview in the future?
I mean, one of my favorite vocalists of all time is Mike Olander from Burnt by the Sun. I don't think it's that crazy of a get. If I were to snag him for an episode of the podcast, it's actually being talked about by mutual friends and podcasters. So yeah, I would have to say Mike Olander.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, and that does it. That's it for rapid fire. Of course, thanks so much for doing that. Thanks for being a good sport. Hopefully those weren't too tough. I didn't put you on the spot too much, but of course, rapid fire brought to us by Wellington Brewery's Hellas Lager. Hellas, yeah. And thanks again for their sponsorship. And thanks, buddy, for doing that. I appreciate that. We're just going to take a quick commercial break, and then I got a couple more questions for you. Are you able to stick around?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
love
awesome.
to.
We'll be right back right after this.
Black Fawn Distro. Movies, merchandise, available now at blackfawndistribution.com.
Okay, and we're back with Black Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday. Big shout out to everyone who provided music for tonight's episode. Of course, we've got Derek Prince-Cox live in the studio virtually, but he is live. We are broadcasting live to Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, and also retransmitting to Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your whatever your favorite platform is to get your podcasts. Wok, welcome back to the show. Of course, a couple of things I wanted to talk to you about, I know that we sit around, we get together numerous times and just, shot the shit, chew the cud, whatever you want, whatever your expression. And we always talk about, comparisons between different industries and that sort of stuff sometimes, especially the music industry. And I just want to kind of get your take on, there's definitely some comparisons between the music industry and the movie industry. And, if you had any kind of thoughts on that at all as to what you've seen kind of in the last few years.
I mean, I guess just the sense of community where it's, I don't know. I feel like talking to you, it's sort of come out that the movie industry is more of a sense of community, and maybe a little less dog eat dog. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know. I think that sense of community is something that's it's similar in both industries. The sort of high tide raises all ships mentality, I guess, is how I would put it, even though that's not my saying, not even close. But I think it describes what the hell I'm trying to say here.
And any advice that you think is pertinent to anybody kind of getting into the arts as far as, what would you tell like someone in their 20s maybe that wants to get into the music industry or the movie industry? I know, you're involved with more of the music industry than the movie industry, but I'm sure there's just some general advice that you could probably pass on. Do you think there's anything that could makes a positive difference?
Yeah, like I'm not really much into the movie industry. I did do the intro music to this cool podcast called Black Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday. But
yeah, we're replacing that
what-
next week, by the way.
shit.
Only took us 6 months to name it, so yeah. No.
Yeah, you're gonna keep the name and get rid of the track. I don't know. I think what I would say to young aspiring musicians or anybody looking to get into the entertainment industry at large is just learn how to hang. Learn how to read a room. If you're being super crass and you're not getting a response, you're probably being too crass. Stuff like that. Because you can practice your chops day in and day out. And I feel like a lot of musicians particularly are incredible these days. There's definitely something in the water. But if you can't hang, you're not going to get that gig. And maybe somebody not as good as you will get the gig because they can hang and eventually they'll get the chops.
Yeah. I think the one of the big differences is that the movie industry is so intimate as far as the art form goes, right? And all I mean by that is that, when you're in a band and and I'm sure you can relate to this, like, you're in a band with like 3 or 4 or 5 other people, you get to know those people pretty intimately as far as like traveling around and playing shows, their idiosyncrasies and all that stuff. And I think that happens on a larger scale in a film. But also because of that, I think there's a lot of conflicting personalities. You just have more. It's like kind of like, if you were in a band, instead of being in a band with 4 other dudes, if you were in a band with like 8 other dudes and, or gals or whatever, and just having all like even more personalities to try and sort of put together. And, everyone needs their ego stroked a little bit here and there. And, I'm going to gamble and say me and you are we're not removed from that either. But I do feel like in movies, it's a little bit more, but again, like I said, like, I think that's a positive as well. And the positive aspect of that is that I think people really form strong bonds and friendships that last for years and can bleed over from one film project to the next. And I think that you see that in big Hollywood movies, all the way down to like into indie films. And that's my personal experience of what I've experienced in Southern Ontario, at least with the film community operating out of Toronto and surrounding area. So I don't know. That's my take. If anyone has anything to add, let us know. Be interested to hear your thoughts. Okay. So look, Violence Exposed just came out, just dropped your brand new single from your new project, Reciprolog. Of course, anyone who can buy the track through Bandcamp, and of course, all proceeds are being directed towards the Guelph Black Heritage Society. So make sure you check out that track. It's a banging tune. Derek, what can you tell us about what else you have coming up, or what you're working on, and how can people get in touch with you if they want to?
Yeah, well, I'm working on single number 2 for Reciprolog with the almighty Sam Pattison of Mandroid Echo Star. And
wait, sorry. I don't mean to jump in there. Correction. Juno award-winning.
Oh, yes.
Sam Pattison.
How could I forget that? If I were him, I'd carry that thing everywhere I went. But yeah. So we actually just recorded drums, and we're in the process of mixing those. And I don't really have a release date for that yet, but I promise I will keep you posted on my social media sites, which brings me to social media sites. You can follow me at The Wok Show on Instagram and Facebook. I'm also on Facebook just as Derek Prince-Cox, and Reciprolog is on Facebook and Instagram at Reciprolog, which is RECIPROLOGUE. It's a bit of a mouthful, but what can I say, man? All the cool names were taken.
I'm actually just going to throw that up as well. So, of course, let me just see here. This is our last, our last ticker that we had up, but I'm just trying to find it here so we can. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so check out Reciprolog on Bandcamp, the new single, The Violence Exposed, featuring Ryan Drury, guest vocal spot on the track. But it's a fantastic track. And like I mentioned, all the proceeds are going towards the Guelph Black Heritage Society. And of course, hey, if you're listening right now and you have a friend that you'd like to send a real rockin' tune to, please just email us at takeover@blackfawndistribution.com. And what we'll do is we'll make a purchase of The Violence Exposed and send out that track to whomever you want. And we will cover the cost. And of course, that cost going and those proceeds going to Guelph Black Heritage Society. All right. So I think that's kind of about it, man. I don't know. Do you want to talk about anything else? You got anything else coming up that people should know about, or?
Well, I want to say, like, thanks for doing that, man. That rules hard.
Oh, no worries, man. Like I said, we think it's a good cause too. And, you know, it's just great to see things come together, right? I mean, we've been through the music ringer together at a few points in our lives. And it's like, you know, here, pay a couple bucks, you get a cool track. And it goes towards supporting something good. Right. And all the power to you, my friend. I wish there was more people like you that were doing more projects like this, because I really do feel that like a lot of people could get behind it and do some really make a difference as far as like a little bit, or as far as putting out music and making sure that it's supporting something good. So like I said, it just needs to be good and it can potentially do something great. So I got one last question. We got one last question from our audience tuning in tonight. And again, thanks for everyone for tuning in. But from our good friend Daryl, as I mentioned before, longtime listener of the show, he said, "What do you miss most about The Shadow?"
That's certainly not the smell. And also, I mean, shout out to Orange Hat Film Productions, by the way. Yeah, The Shadow, dude. It was just it was a fucking cool bar. You know what I missed the most, actually, in retrospect, was Shotgun Saturdays. And Bender will know what I'm talking about.
Oh man.
We would basically rent it out and get together and get super drunk and blast Pantera home videos and crank metal. It was awesome. I mean, the shows were incredible too. The scene was incredible. And actually, it's funny you asked, Daryl, because J-Cloth is back. And he was nuts. A big part of those Shadow shows, man. So it's kind of crazy that you asked that, man. Yeah, I would probably say Shotgun Saturdays, man.
I remember doing we did a surprise birthday for a friend of ours, and we played, I think it was like every other track we played was Pantera or like a Pantera side. We played Damage Plan or something like that. And it wasn't like $2 beers. I think it was like something crazy like that. Like you could walk in with $10 and walk away with like 8 beers and, or I guess 4 beers, but yeah. Awesome. Well,
you were seeing double though. So
yeah. Hopefully that answers your question, Daryl. It sounds like you've been holding on to that one for a while, so I'm glad we got an answer for you. Hey, listen, man, can you stick around just after we go off the air? I just want to kind of catch up a little bbit, but for everyone else out there, thank you for tuning in. And again, big thanks to Derek Prince-Cox, host of the Wok Show, and also frontman or head honcho of Reciprolog, which is a new band that he's put together, and his new single is out now on Bandcamp called The Violence Exposed. Of course, if you're tuning in live on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, we do appreciate you for sure. And thanks for tuning in every other Tuesday for Black Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday. Of course, if you're not tuning in live, we also retransmit to all the major streaming platforms, including Apple and Spotify and wherever else you pick up your favorite podcasts. Remember to like, follow, share, and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to. We definitely appreciate the support. And of course, as I mentioned off the top of the show, it doesn't just support us, but it also supports our awesome guests and the cool projects that they're working on as well. So thank you very much. Until next time, I guess, I don't know, any last words, Wok, that you'd like to add?
Thank you so much for having me. And to the viewers, thank you so much for chiming in. I'm just super appreciative, man. I promised myself I wouldn't cry.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, if you're done checking this show out, awesome. Go check out the Wok Show. It's available on all the platforms I just mentioned. And it's a great interview series with a lot of talented individuals that are way more talented than me. And they've got a lot of cool songs and tracks and albums for you to check out as well. So again, thanks a lot, Derek. I appreciate it. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
that does it for another episode of Black Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, please remember to like, follow, share, and subscribe, and help us spread the word about the program and our incredible guests. If you're interested in grabbing some more information about Black Fawn Distribution or want to check out our film titles and merchandise, you can find us online at blackfawndistribution.com. We'd also like to thank our sponsors, Wellington Brewery's Hellas Lager, Deadly Grounds Coffee, Twisted Teas, and of course, Black Fawn Distribution. Just a reminder, you can always catch Black Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday live on Facebook, YouTube, and our other social media platforms. Or pick up one of our retransmissions on any of the major streaming platforms. Until next time, I'm your host Benner from Black Fawn Distro, and we'll see you soon.